Hello everybody, Qualia Quartz here, and welcome to a new episode of The Lost Glade. Last time I was working on my house, which I've pretty much mostly finished the outside of. It's still pretty hollow, and there's a lot of stuff that I need to do on the surrounding area. But in between episodes, I started really working on the hill a little more. I shaved this hill back a significant amount more, covered it in grass and moss, and I decided to push this little path going down to the house a little shallower, so there's a little bit more space between it and the house. And now going up it will be a little more gradual, really making use of the slabs. And I think it worked out nice because this lookout hill that I still kept is like that much more of a lookout hill. So now we have kind of a really cool way to enter the village area, which is kind of where I want to focus my attention this episode. I felt it necessary to build my house first because that feels like the first thing I should build. But I'm far more interested overall in creating this little society that I have cooked up in my head. Plus I want every single building here to have some sort of functional purpose, and I would really like to have things like iron farms already. So every time I need some sort of functional farm type thing, I'll make a house in the village, and whoever lives there will be like responsible for that material. Like I gave that example of the beekeeper. I want there to be a little house somewhere where somebody is just like managing bees. Also, I have to highlight, I'm using a little bit of some texture pack action right now. I usually stray away from using texture packs for blocks because when it comes to like building with like intricate designs of gradients and whatnot, it'll throw everything off. It'll kind of visually make everything a lot more, I don't know, difficult. But mobs don't ruin that at all. They're fair game. So I've updated the cows, for example, to be the Hereford cows, because literally why wouldn't I? If it's Hereford anything, I'm putting it in the game. And then one of my personal favorites, I made the chickens mossy. They're brown, which is already like, I like that a lot more than just the white chickens. But yeah, they're just kind of covered in moss. They could just brush it off, but they don't bother because they're chill with it. Hiya! So I've given quite a few mobs some special skins that you'll be seeing here and there throughout. Just really trying to reinforce the general vibe of the world that I'm making, so I made it very catered to what I'm building here. But enough rambling. Now that I've got this path really figured out, like where my area ends and where this village begins, I want to start trying to figure out a general layout of the basic first few buildings that I'm going to want to establish here. This village is going to stretch from this edge over here all the way to... I mean, actually, I don't really know how far it's going to stretch, but I have a lot of room for outward expansion. But I ain't tackling it all at once. For now, I'm just going to focus on right here. Alright, I want you to do a little bit of envisioning with me. We go up this little hill here, and this path is going to continue going around the corner over there. There's going to be a building right here. There's going to be a building right here. Right here. As soon as you're basically right here, you are immersed, surrounded by these buildings. I want this lookout hill not just to be a really cool spot to look out on it, but also being the spot to look at it, where as soon as you're past these buildings, suddenly you see all this. So I've been doing a little bit of rudimentary laying buildings out, and I'm doing them at little angles like this one. I was not working with a lot of angles previously, so I want to kind of stretch myself a little bit. I've been working on the building that's going to go here first. This is going to be the beekeeper, and you can see this diagonal that I gave it here, not only for the sake of the path, but also just because, you know, that adds more interest to the way the build looks in the end. Oh, the pigs are muddy now. little side note. And in the background, I'd be laying out copper just for future sake now that I'm generating honeycomb, and I'm about to be generating a lot more. And I also laid out a little bit of a color palette for what I want out of the styles of buildings that I'm going to be making. This is more what the future buildings and the tunnels are going to be using, and this is what the more medieval, newer buildings that were just created are going to use. What I wanted to do is I wanted there to be a stark difference between them, but I still wanted them to kind of work complementary to each other, work hand in hand. So these shades of fuchsias and greens are kind of reflected in the pinks and the greens of the moss. They are different, but still similar, and I think that they have good synergy. I've also created yet another floating sign to-do list here for this building. For the beekeeper, first I'm going to need to gather all the materials, and I'm in that phase right now. Of course I'm going to need bees. Right now I only have 3, so I'm going to have to start breeding them up. Then I'll build the outer structure, design the farm inside of it, collect the beekeeper, and then design the interior. These might flip around depending on which one I want to do first, but I'm going to definitely have to gather materials first. There are some weird ones later on, like I'm going to need a lot of crying obsidian. I'm probably going to have to just trade a bunch of gold in the nether later. Probably the weirdest material I don't have yet is like the honey, the stuff that this building's going to generate. So maybe I might design the farm before I finish everything. For now though, I'm going to start putting down the very first footprint that I want this building to have. This building is going to have a bit of an interesting footprint. And that's one of the first things I want to get into is just building this first initial phase of it. Spoiler alert, it's the future part. Been working hard? This is what I've got so far. Now, right now, I'm focusing only on the future part, as I said. You'll see there's a lot of weird empty gaps. That's half me kind of trying to conserve materials. Not that diorite is that hard pressed of a material, but I like to use moss just to fill in spaces of blocks that could be anything. The blocks that are all super sandwiched in, and that's definitely going to be a thing I do right now while I'm in the early game. I don't have that many materials, I don't have that many farms, but you can see I'm using the same gradient that I was using for the skyscraper over there. What this building originally was, I'm working it to be that this entire area used to be a mall, and this up here is that second story walkway that people can walk around and, you know, go to the shops up there on. And this is one of the support beams that was holding up that structure. There's going to be more. I'm going to continue putting little bits and pieces of this mall in this entire area. So again, these old ruined structures are being used to create new buildings, and this is the foundation basically of what is to come. There's gonna be more, but ignore that part. If you were to just focus on this part right here and build a building using this existing structure, well, clearly you'd put walls up here, you'd put walls diagonally right here, and in the back here, this is where the store would have been. There's gonna be more building back here too. You can kind of see here where the entrance was, and this is that hallway kind of underneath this overhang, this being like half of the entrance doorway area. And this used to be a wall that divided one store from the next. As of right now, I have run out of crying obsidian. That is the big thing preventing me from finishing this bit up, but I'm gonna start working on the actual medieval part now, the rest of the building to follow, and I'm probably gonna have to go to the nether to get some crying obsidian a little later. The grind continues. The new structure being built around the ruins is starting to be set up. I got a window display starting to pop up here with honeycomb, a lot of bushes and vines along the sides of the building. Vines be pretty stinky in terms of the way they just grow without limits, so I'm using the string method. They really need to add the trimming thing like they did with the glowberry vines, because they're so good, but they're so annoying. But I think for how good it looks on this building, I'm just gonna let all the string everywhere fly. You can hardly notice it anyways, so I'm mostly pretty much done with the first level of this building. If we go in here, we have what is the start of the interior. Like, this is where the shop keep is gonna be. I'm gonna fill these trapdoors with honey blocks as soon as I get them, but I have 0 to my name right now. In the back here, we've got the new section of the building that's just been built adjacent to the really old ancient wood right here. It's a really interesting mix back here. We've got really obvious ruins dead set in the middle. And I'm thinking this is gonna be the space where the farm goes in the back here. Perhaps there will be a section over here for the honey blocks and over here for the honeycomb. I'll think on it. There's a ladder up here which takes you to the little second floor. I'm guessing for decoration it's mostly just gonna kind of be a storage area. And then if you go over here, there is another ladder that takes you up to the third and final floor, and this is the top of what used to be that second floor of the mall. So it's become this house's balcony, and over here is gonna be another room, probably like the main house section of this house. Bed, kitchen, all that cozy stuff. Right now I'm gonna take a break from building and go to the nether. Like I said, I needed more crying obsidian, so I'm wearing gold. I got a stack of gold ingots on me, and I'm ready to barter. Lucky me, the biome right beneath my portal here is a crimson forest. That's good because I'm gonna need a lot of crimson wood for my builds, and because this is where most of the dudes that I barter with spawn. Yo, have some money, have some money. Time to fill my inventory with junk. Yep, junk, one measly normal obsidian. So far, that's the closest thing to it. Bro, I think I might need to start figuring out alternative means of getting this stuff. Over half a stack of gold so far, and it does not look very promising. And I think it's gonna be like the obsidian, where it's only gonna give me one piece. And that's only whenever he does decide to give me some, so you know what? I'm gonna deforest his land. Yeah, odds are I'm definitely making a gold farm later, with one of them fancy automated bartering systems. I continued bartering a little more and I got one piece, and I also stole one from the block pallet that I made earlier because, let's be honest, it's a little better utilized in an actual build. I think right now the best bet for just finishing this stretch is to just wander around the world and find ruined portals. So I guess I've got a build-induced adventure in front of me. Here I am. I'm out on the adventure. I figure I should also go check by the villages and look for any of the cats that I don't have yet. I've been, tinkering with the texture packs, and I changed one of the cats to my girlfriend's cat, Fig. And speaking of those texture packs, here's one of the ones that I haven't seen yet in the world. I made the iron golems mossy. You'll be seeing those guys when I actually set up the village. Yo, what did I just walk in on? My adventuring has led me to a village that starts down there and ends all the way on top of this little mountain. And I really like this spot. It's cozy. It's right on the border of this dark oak forest. The blacksmith is like just starting to get nestled into the forest right here. So far, still haven't found any new cats, any new ruined portals. I did just see a creeper, which I want to highlight because I changed the creeper's skin. Come at me, bro. Oh yeah. Yeah, they mossed over robots now, which is perfect from both ends of the theming. Yeah, sadly, I'm still not finding any more cats, but it's whatever, man. There's a giant birch forest down there, and I'm kind of also trying to look for more trail ruins. This is a good vantage point up here. Still not finding any. These things are hard to find if you're not just looking at a seed map. Well, I finally found my first ruined portal, so sweet. Got at least 2 more of these. Another village. Let's see if there's any cats here. Ooh, there's a jelly. This is the first jelly that I've seen in the game since the real jelly passed away. A little bittersweet. Oh, there's also a Siamese cat. Yes, there's a Tomba. Oh, she's my friend immediately. Looks like I'm getting at least 2 new members of my little root beer cat family. Tomba, get out of the grass. Get out of the grass! And Tomba acquired. I've returned safely home with my 2 new cats, so now we have 6 root beer brethren. And I have been grinding away at this building more and more. It is almost all there at this point. This building's a bit of a weird one because of this weird diagonal, the original structure sprouting out of it. You can see I'm mimicking the roof and the walls of this house on a much smaller scale. I don't want to do that on every building here. I want to have it a little spiced up, but there's going to be some consistency throughout this place. I've installed a chimney, which I'm trying to give the emphasis of like, this is a painted stripe, like this is supposed to be kind of like bee stripes. There's gonna be more bee/honey related decorating later on, but I need the honey blocks. And I also need a lot of bee nests. So I need to go on another adventure, this time looking for some jungle wood because apparently I don't have any, and start collecting some bee nests because on that last adventure, I made the mistake of not bringing my Silk Touch pickaxe. So I'll venture out a different direction and continue searching for the materials for this silly little house that's sprouting up. Well, I found some jungle wood. I also found another village off in the distance, so I'm gonna go check that for any new cats. Cornelius, where are you going? Come back. Sweet. Once again, I'm seeing 2 cats that I don't have yet. The brown one and the tuxedo one. I just realized I don't have any fish on me though, so I'm gonna have to go manual fishing. Do they like tropical fish? I don't even know. That's all the fish that I can find in the ocean. Okay, I'm gonna test it out this way. I got both in my hand. Let's see. Oh, can't really test it out when you immediately fall in love with me, pumpkin eater. Yes, I've found a pumpkin eater cat too, so now that's 3 new cats in this village. Okay, there's a million salmon in the river, so forget the tropical fish entirely. Oh, Gino. Come here, come here, come here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, pumpkin eater. There we go. No grass in my way. No pumpkin eater in my way. Got all 3 of them now. 9 total and still no fig. Ay, ay, ay. I might have chosen the wrong spot to settle because look at that mountain. This is a pretty expansive dark forest as well, so Maybe I really should have done some proper shopping. But who knows, I see this as a very long-term world. I may end up building here one day. I'm noting this place in my mind, like it's not that far from where I live. If you look on the map in the corner there, like you can see where I am. My house is just beneath the bottom of the center, so it's nearby. Reasonably, I could build here and have it be part of my main base, and it wouldn't even be that disconnected. A little bit of a walk, but it's probably worth it. That might be the end goal of where my base ends up. Here I am, once again back with several new cats, and this time I also found a wandering little forest spirit or something. I actually think it would be a really nice idea to give this guy a moss block, because I'm scaffolding with it all the time. He could be the dude who just collects it for me and gives it back to me when I'm tearing it down. Or he can just fly away, I guess. Okay, see you later, loser. Take my moss! There we go. I mean, okay. It would only make sense that a little forest spirit would return moss to me. I also got 3 new bee nests, and 2 of them are full of bees, I'm pretty sure. At least one of them anyways. Guess we have more bees to unleash? Oh, that's where I'm hearing this guy. He spawned on my roof. That's actually really funny. I love that. I know he's gonna have garbage, but out of curiosity, I want to see what garbage he's got. Yeah, pretty garbage. Really though, I was more wanting to test out... Oh, I'm sorry about that. I wanted to test out the forest spirit, so I just scaffolded with some moss. Where is my buddy? Where is my pal? Oh, there you are. What were you doing? Take the moss, take it all. Barf it back to me. Bee things are happening. I'm multiplying them, dude. I'm multiplying them. So now that I'm crafting my own beehives and slowly replacing them from the bee nests, I'm starting to use the bee nests in the decorations that I wanted to make. Here's some bee signs that I made. I'm just now realizing they're missing a key detail. And there we go. Our silly bee signs have wings. Right now, actual bees are living inside of the bee signs, and they can, thanks to the fact that the gates I'm using as their antennas are open. Make babies, make babies, make babies, make babies, make babies. So I'm breeding up the bees a lot, just to make sure that when I put these things into the farm, that each one has 3 of them in it. If I make too many bees, it's not a bad thing that they can just fly around. That's only a positive. And meanwhile, I'm finally collecting some honey, which means I can actually start using them in my decorations. So first things first, the barrels out front. Boom, now they're full with honey. Pretty soon I'll be moving these boys inside into the farm. Okay, I think I've reached the point where I bred too many because there's so many now. All of them want the same pile of flowers. This is so funny. I'm playing Bee Swarm Sim in Minecraft. All right, I've packed the bees up and I'm gonna move them inside. I've built a rudimentary farm in here. Not the typical kind of bee farm you're used to seeing. I'm not tiling it one by one. Instead, I'm rolling with what I did out there at the temporary little bee igloo thing. My guess is that there's a reason why the tileable one is way bigger and that this probably won't work if they're next to each other. Like all the redstone talks to each other too much, but if they're all spaced apart like this, then it shouldn't matter. And again, I'm not going for maximum efficiency. This is just my silly little solo world. So I think with these fences in place, I can just kinda pop them in there, right? I'm dumb and I forgot to load it with anything. Here we go. Have 2 shears and like a 1/6 of these bottles. This feels like hardly anything, because it is. I don't really have that much iron right now. Okay, let's see. This time, yep, it did something. It gave me honeycomb. Oh boy, I don't think my system is working with bottles. Yeah, I never tested the system out there with the glass bottles. This might be a big issue. After quite a bit of research and test designs in a creative world, the answer is pretty simple. I just need to have all empty bottles. I mean, shears can be in here too, but the honey bottles were still up here because they would normally just remain in there unless they were forced to come down here. Oh, it's still not working. And that's because of this redstone line. This observer's going off every single time the honey level changes instead of just only when it gets full. So the short ones work with the ones with shears because the shears just don't do anything otherwise. But for the units that I decide to use for honey, I'm gonna have to put them somewhere where they can be longer. A bunch of good news. All of the copper that I wanted to change color on my house is finally changed. So this part is finally looking the way it's supposed to. I put the copper here not just because it's kind of like the support beams are being exposed, but it also helps kind of deal with the side texture issue with the bamboo. Although to be honest, the side texture of the bamboo isn't that bad and it still looks pretty good overall. I guess this wall's one-dimensional, so it's kind of able to stand on its own. It's a little more awkward when it's a 3D structure. Anyways, good news number 2, I set up the honey part of the automated farm in here, and it's actually working now. I've filled this thing with a bunch of glass bottles, and now it's only spitting out honey bottles. There we go, new one. So I'm grinding out honey blocks. I've installed a silly little tall staircase, kind of like what B-dubs does sometimes, because I couldn't really find a way to get up here. This is the simplest, most compact way to do it without it taking up too much space. I don't really need to be up here at all. I can reach inside of this dispenser from down there, but I do like being able to be on top of it, and plus I can actually use these windows. Redstone everywhere aside, I might still find a way to make this part of the interior pretty. Next part of the good news is that we're making so much honey that it's starting to drip down. Oh no! That it's starting to drip down the chimney. So now that part of the thematic decorating is starting to come about. Final bit of good news, I finally have enough crying obsidian for this build. I had to steal it from my house. I temporarily had to pry it from my basement, and you know what? I'm not gonna really work on this thing until a little while later, so it can stay like that for a while. But now that the house is mostly built, and now that the farms are working, now I have to go out and actually find the beekeeper. We are back at spawn to retrieve the beekeeper, and you may be wondering why I'm here. Like, am I going to specifically get one of the snow villagers to be the beekeeper? Ha! No, the beekeeper's right over here, and it's this guy. Lucky me, there's a polar bear right outside the spawn portal. I didn't think it would be that easy. So a few things. Yes, I'm using a bear as the beekeeper. Amongst all the silly texture pack things I've been doing, I decided to make the polar bears a grizzly bear covered in honey. And yes, the villagers in my village are not actually going to be villagers. I mean, some of them might. Maybe? But to help stretch the theming even more, I want to put a bunch of non-villagers in my village. Like, a bunch of these random different mobs are sentient enough to run a shop or something now. Like, it's been who knows how many years, and now bears are running bee shops. Alright, the hard part is over, dragging this guy up the hill. Now it's smooth sailing. Dragging a silly honey bear through the nether. I genuinely thought this would be such an arduous process, but we're already here. This is so surprisingly easy. I mean, I got lucky with him being right outside the portal, but really all you need is a good nether tunnel, and transporting mobs is not that difficult. So long as they're not constantly trying to kill you, which fortunately for me, polar bears for some reason don't do in Minecraft. And now that he's in here, I can put these fences back, which is the entire reason why they're here in the first place. His hitbox is so big that he can't squeeze through this. So now he can settle in and really start managing the bees. This is so good, dude. Now that I got the beekeeper, I decided to finish up the outside detailing, so I did one last final grind, and I got a lot more honey now dripping down to the bottom. And now that all the crying obsidian is installed, all of the hollow signs are working again. In what used to be the mall, these holographic signs were everywhere along these strips. And I've installed one last hive, as well as a giant honey pot. The honey pot too is also overflowing with honey dripping down, and it is actually full of bees. You can see that top row of the wood there is all of my beehives, and all the bees are actually living in there, and they come out here. So not only is it a nice big decoration that really lets you know even more what this building is about from this direction, it's also a working, living, breathing bee colony. A giant honey pot with a bunch of bees actually living out of it? Now that's a pretty good living situation. And there's so much more I want to do with this interior, but this has been such a long haul grind for this building, much longer than I realized. So tune in next time when I design this guy's house, and amongst other things, go back to working on the interior of my own home. Might just be one big interior design episode, who knows. This has been Qualia Quartz. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!